the other big story that we are following, election season. Okay, we are just weeks away from Election Day here in the Commonwealth, one of two states that are holding statewide election. But within that, we have some other important elections that are taking place too, including the fight for delegate seats and the one in the 97 district here in Virginia, covering a lot of Virginia Beach. Is a very big race. And joining us today is one of the candidates who is vying for that position. We have lawyer and candidate Tim Anderson. He is going against the incumbent Michael Feggans in that seat. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time this morning, Tim.
So glad to be here.
You know, you and I have had a few different conversations over the last year even. We talked when you were in the primary as well. Just real quick here, can you tell people a little bit about yourself, where you're from? And I know this is not your first go-round when it comes to politics.
Yeah, I was in the House previously. I came out due to redistricting. Our population lines changed and my seat was eliminated. I'm a lawyer. I do a lot of high-profile cases, so probably people recognize me from that role. From Missouri, moved to Florida for college, and then came up here and never left. So happy to call Virginia home. I've lived here since the mid-'90s and in the middle of a very, very big fight for control of which party controls the House of Delegates this year.
Let's talk about that. By the way, I think that story is for a lot of people where they moved here from somewhere else, got a taste of Hampton Roads, and they just never left, right? And so you fall in love with it pretty quickly. You just mentioned the fight for, well, I've talked to you before, for balanced governance is something that you said that you've wanted. A very big election here within the Commonwealth. Why did you decide to get back into the swing of politics?
Yeah, so the seat that I previously represented is pretty much the same seat that I'm currently running in. My seat was paired with another Republican at the time. I decided not to run against her, and she ended up losing. As a Republican, I don't like one-party control. I think that it breeds bad policy, and especially in a state like Virginia where we don't have a filibuster in the Senate. So if you have one vote majorities in the House and one vote majorities in the Senate, which they do, they can pretty much pass anything they want. Now, currently, we have a Republican governor and a Democrat-controlled General Assembly, and it's all up for grabs this year. The House of Delegates, the governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, it's all up for grabs. We don't get good results in Virginia, either side, when both parties hold it all. And right now, the Senate is not up for election, so the Democrats will hold that no matter what. But I do think that we will get better government if you have one party controlling one chamber and one party controlling the other. It just kills all the nonsense. The bills that go through are bipartisan. You can't get anything through either way without the consensus of the other side. And half the country, half the Commonwealth is Republican, half the Commonwealth is Democrat. Almost every election, these things flip by a point or two one way or the other. So it's good to have parties controlling both chambers to get these better equal results.
And you know, Tim, I can't help but think as we watch what's going on at the federal level with the government shutdown, two sides that are simply appearing to be at an impasse right now, kind of speaking to what you're saying. In your For you, if you were to be elected, how would you play the partisan game, if at all, when it comes to voting with your party? Is that just something you would just stand with, or would you be willing to reach across the aisle and break from your party?
Yeah, so there are people in the General Assembly that are button pushers, and they vote with their party 95, 98%. The guy I'm running against is one of those individuals. I have a unique title in the General Assembly of being one of the highest delegates that didn't go along with their party and drove my side crazy. I'm kind of our West Virginia senator friend who did that in past administration. I try to look at being in government as this, is that certainly I have a worldview of how I think things are going to go, but I'm not representing myself. I'm representing the people that elected me. And Virginia Beach is, just like the rest of the Commonwealth, it's 50-50. And there are Republicans and there are Democrats. And what I try to do is look at what's best for my community, and vote accordingly. And sometimes my side has the right idea, and sometimes their side has the right idea. And I also have one of the highest bipartisan bill ratings, where Democrats join my bills, I join their bills, trying to get good things done. And again, that's not common anymore in politics, but I'm pretty proud of that particular record.
Let's get into some of the issues. For you, what would you consider as the top issues facing the Commonwealth right now and its voters?
I think the economy, and the economy. Those are the top three issues. We live in a state where we are overtaxed, and I have been rallying around this idea that we need to find ways to reduce the tax burden on Virginians. And the biggest one and the most hated one is the car tax. And I know this is a broken record. We talk about it all the time. Every election cycle, somebody wants to get rid of the car tax. But I really want to get rid of the car tax. It's something I tried to do when I was there. And the way I would do it is we have a surplus every year in Virginia. $3 billion on average surplus. And so what we would do is when we have these surpluses, we would give tax credits to Virginians on their tax bill. So when you get your car tax bill in the mail, if we have a surplus, we're going to allocate that surplus towards your tax bill. And it would at least exempt the first $40,000 of motor vehicle value out of that. So it would get most of the minivans, most of the family vehicles out of the tax paying burden. Because look, if you have a $30,000 Honda Accord, you're paying about $1,000 a year in car tax, and it's a one-time tax every year. It hits in June in Virginia Beach, hits in November and December in other places, but it's $1,000. Nobody has that, not in this economy. So we have a surplus. We tax enough at the state level where we have more than we need. We don't need to find other ways to spend it. We need to actually start giving real relief, and that is a big push I have. The other big one I have is we are one of only 15 states in the country that still tax veterans' military retirement. It's insane. It's the number one reason why veterans leave. Now, when I was in office, we passed an exemption on the first $40,000 of income, but we're still taxing above that. Veterans are still leaving. Retiree veterans move to Moyock, North Carolina. No offense to Moyock, North Carolina. But it is the Silicon Valley of the East Coast now. All the veterans leave Virginia and they move to Moyock, and they're all driving into Chesapeake every day to use the benefits of Virginia, and they're avoiding military taxes. And how Virginia, with the largest military bases in the country, would treat our veterans this way is insane. So we're really trying to finish that job and get military tax exemptions off, which is great. I think is a great policy. My opponent feels exactly the opposite. He's actually a veteran, and he thinks that we should be taxing veterans. And so it's a great wedge issue that I have between him on that. And fundamentally, it's just the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. We shouldn't be taxing veterans who earn their money serving our country. Their military retirement should not be taxed by Virginia, and we can afford that break.
You know, speaking of the economy there and hearing you speak about how important that is for you and saying it's a top issue, we're also in, obviously the government shutdown where federal employees are impacted. But we also saw prior to that a lot of Virginians who were laid off by the Trump administration. What could you, as a state delegate, potentially do to help your constituents who could be affected, or those in Virginia, if they have been laid off by the federal government or they're finding themselves in a tough position economically because of issues at the federal level?
Yeah, so Governor Youngkin went to work right away when this was happening, and he created a website called Virginia Has Jobs. There's 200,000 jobs available in Virginia, government, private sector jobs that are well-paying jobs. And so what Governor Youngkin's approach is let's get these displaced federal workers who've been fired by the federal government into some other jobs so that the economy in Virginia isn't crushed. And we saw that work quite well over this past 6 months, and I think we support those programs. But let me be super clear, and I know some Republicans have a hard time saying things that are against the president. This government shutdown is stupid. It's always stupid. We send these federal workers home, and then they eventually come back and they get back pay for not working. I mean, why we shut the government down is just an insane proposition. And I know that my side has a position and the Democrat side has a position, but everybody needs to knock it off, because even though you're getting back pay, these workers aren't going to get paid. tomorrow when they're supposed to get paid. And so can you afford that? Can I afford not to skip a paycheck even though I might get it down the road? It's an insane thing we're doing. The air traffic controllers are working, moving the airplanes every day. The TSA workers are making sure the airports are safe. The FDA is doing food inspections. Everybody is doing their job, and maybe they will get paid, but someday they'll get paid in the future, but they're not going to get paid right now. It's crazy. This hijacking of government. The Republicans do it. The Democrats are now doing it. It needs to come to an end, because at the end of the day, we're going to pay all these workers. We're just screwing their lives up, and that has to come to an end. And whatever power the president has to end that, we saw what he did in the Middle East. Everybody said that was impossible. He should be able to find a way to solve this problem right now and get this government back open.
Just because you said, I have my position, my party, and the Democrats have their position. What is your position on the actual issues that are seemingly at the heart of this shutdown?
Well, it seems very clear. The Democrats are very passionate about the idea that Obamacare subsidies are going to end. And everybody's health insurance who's on Obamacare is going to go up. And I can appreciate that, because I'm in a big legal fight with the Virginia Beach school teachers on that exact same issue. They're all looking at 110% premium increases. I understand those are real numbers. Nobody can afford it. And so I don't disagree that the Democrats have a very valid concern here about people's insurance going way up. But at the same time, you don't hijack your TSA employee's paycheck to try to do that. What you do is you push and you push and you push. And if you lose, then there's an election next year and you say, this is why we need to have power. That's how it's supposed to be done, not by shutting the government down. So I think that my side is right about this. Pass a clean continuing resolution, get the government open, and let the Democrats make this an election issue if our side doesn't come along, which I think we should. But fundamentally, I'm for getting the government reopened right now, today, no more delays. And if we're going to fire people, we need to fire people in a systematic, organized way, not a slash and dash that we've been seeing. There needs to be a way to do it where people are being the higher paid older folks maybe get retirement. We start winding the government down that way. This idea of just slashing and dashing workers out of the federal government is just the wrong way to do it. So I don't like either side right now on this issue, because it's affecting my community in a very, very negative way.
Just because you mentioned it as well, I'm hearing you, and it's just triggering other questions, not necessarily related to the campaign, but you just said you are representing teachers in a very big case that we've been following here, Virginia Beach. They say that they were not, they believe they were led on or not notified ahead of signing their contracts of those insurance premiums that they have, those health tax hikes. We have a meeting tomorrow that they're supposed to get some new information. What can you tell us about what could potentially come out of this meeting with the school division?
Yeah, so what Virginia Beach has been doing for the past few years is they've been dumping in about $10 million a year into a special fund that have allowed to subsidize the premiums of healthcare of the school system workers, VBCPS employees, teachers, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, all of them. And they've run out of money. And so what's happening in 2026 is that the full freight of the health insurance premiums is coming forward, which is, by the way, the exact same thing that the Democrats are fussing about at the national level with Obamacare. It's a similar concept. These premiums have been subsidized. So we've been saying, look, you have a big pot of money. There's $40 million in Virginia Beach that they don't know what to do with. If they put $5 or $6 or $7 million into that pot, these premiums can be reduced by 60 or 70%. And they need to do it this one time, because all of these workers signed up with the promise they were getting a pay raise, while the school system withheld the fact of what they knew as early as November of last year. They knew these rates were coming. They withheld that. They got everybody to sign up, and now they're in their school year, and now they're being told their insurance is going to jump up $3,000 or $4,000 a year. Nobody can afford it. They have to be bailed out this one time. And then next year, everybody needs to be told, hey, your insurance is going to go up here. If you still want to work here, sign the dotted line. And if you don't, go somewhere else. But everybody should have that choice before they get locked in. You can't change the rules of a football game in the second period of a game. You play the rules, and the rules were that their premiums were going to be the same, and then they changed them after everybody locked in. And that's just so inherently wrong. So we are in a lawsuit with that where we think we're going to gain ground, but we did see just very recently that Virginia Beach is now asking for $6 million, almost $6 million, $5.6 million to be funded into this fund. And if they get it, and I think they will, this is going to resolve my lawsuit, and it's going to make everybody's lives in Virginia Beach that much better.
All right, we'll definitely be looking forward to that update as well. That meeting taking place tomorrow at 3:30 in the Virginia Beach City Public School division. And so let's get back to this campaign for you as well. I know we put on your lawyer hat there for a quick moment. Abortion rights and codifying it. That is also a big conversation throughout this entire election season. Where do you stand on this? Is it something that you would vote for to codify, or that you would vote against?
So here's where I am on abortion. I have said if it has the word abortion in it, I'm going to say no. And I'm not going to try to expand abortion. I'm not going to try to reduce abortion. Abortion laws are the abortion laws in Virginia. And we see poll after poll after poll. Virginians don't want us to mess with abortion laws. They don't want to make them better. They don't want to make them worse. And so I have constantly said, if the word abortion is in it in any fashion, my vote is no. Now, I'm really not in the pro-choice, pro-life camp, because these are camps that make parties money. So pro-life people make the Republicans money. Pro-choice people make the Democrats money. I produced bills when I was in the General Assembly that were pro-mother bills that would give women the incentive to choose to have their babies, such as maybe free college to become a nurse, or free college to go to become an IT tech person. Something in a high demand field that would give a single mother who's pregnant the idea of, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I could have this baby. I could go become a nurse, and I could raise this child without it ruining my economic life. We have to start looking at abortion as stop telling people what they can do and what they can't do, and this week matters and this week doesn't matter. All that has to stop. And we have to start saying, if we want to reduce abortion, we got to have economic policies that give women the incentive to choose to have their baby. We don't tell people what to do. We give them incentives, and then people end up making those better decisions. That's where I am on abortion, and that's why I'm not going to buy this whole thing. 15 weeks, we got to do this, and you can't do it after this. All that is just telling people what to do, and I'm not for it. But I am for finding ways that we could use government to reduce demand.
There was a big debate that happened the other day. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw it.
Between gubernatorial candidates Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Earl Sears. What were your thoughts coming out of that for you as somebody who is vying to be obviously a state delegate, and one of the two will be the person who will govern from the governor's seat? What was your big takeaway from it?
So House District 97 is the bellwether of the entire Commonwealth. Whoever wins this seat, that party is likely going to control the House of Delegates. I've never got the opportunity to have a debate with my opponent. He refuses to do it. He won't be in the same room with me. He won't sit down with me. We've tried to do this all election season. He refuses. Takeaways from the governor's race are pretty clear. Winsome Sears isn't the greatest debater. That's fair. I mean, the way she conducted herself, she wasn't a professional debater, not nearly as polished as a congresswoman from D.C. was. So I think Abigail came off more calm and more prosed. But fundamentally, the issues that Winsome raised, even if she was doing it in an abrupt way, were good issues, such as, can't you denounce your attorney general candidate who wanted to kill the Speaker of the House and his children? Like, can't you denounce that? Just publicly say, ooh, that's gross. I really don't think this guy should be running. Because we would do that anytime. I mean, if Jason Miera said something like that, you would see my side throw him under the bus very quickly. So why are we having a hard time doing that? Why are we having a hard time really talking about just issues that are normal? And when you see things like that happening, and Abigail just sits there stone-faced while Winsome's asking her questions about why, where's the line for you? Does he actually have to shoot before you do something? I think what you really saw was just leaning into the party, and you're just there for the party. And I think for that reason, I think Winsome came off better, because ultimately I think she talks more from the heart, although maybe not as prosed and as professional as we would hope, but she's talking more from the heart, and I think she came off more authentic. And when we're talking about Democrats, then that debate didn't mean anything. We're talking about Republicans, that didn't mean anything. But when we're talking about the middle, I think Winsome probably most certainly would have came off more authentic, and I think voters appreciate that.
Well, I know we're certainly waiting to see the latest polls after that debate. Prior to that, the polls to this point have had Abigail Spanberger ahead of Winsome Earl Sears. A follow-up to that question, though, for you is about the conversation around political rhetoric that's happened here within, months to a year. You can date it back even further, when it comes to violence or just the strong nature of some of the stuff that we've been seeing. We've seen actual attacks, obviously the death of Charlie Kirk, attacks on the president, the deaths of Democratic leaders there in Minnesota. And you were just mentioning the text message controversy over Attorney General candidate Jay Jones that was uncovered, that he did text to a Republican words about putting bullets into then House Speaker, and then some other comments about their children, etc. And so that obviously took a big portion not only of the debate stage, but the days leading in. But there's something that you said, because there's no one who I think can agree or would say that those comments were correct. I mean, absolutely. Spanberger's came out, Jay Jones has come out, a lot of people. You saying there's a disagreement on whether or not he should drop out. But there's something that you said there that Republicans immediately would call for their person, if they did it, to step out. But have we not seen from even both sides over the last few years, even some rhetoric, not saying it's the exact same, but even from the president, that some would argue and saying, hey, this is strong language that could potentially, incite somebody to doing something. Do you think that we've seen that from both sides, calling even on the president or others to say step down in that moment?
I think it's a real hard thing for our side to do with the president. I think we would do it to Jason Miyares in a heartbeat. But I think it's very hard to say that about the president. And I don't know why that is. Look, Trump's rhetoric is not helpful in this. I mean, even at the Charlie Kirk funeral, Trump was like, while Erica was over there talking about unity and praying for her and forgiving the guy that killed her husband, Trump's like, these are my enemies. And, and it's like, look, I get it. You have a different role, but the rhetoric isn't helpful. The mere fact that Jay Jones wrote that he wanted Todd Gilbert's children to die in their mother's arms. Like, that is an insane thing to think, more or less right. What is wrong with people? Now, I'll tell you why Jay felt that way. Because if I could go into a time machine right now and go back to the beginning of Hitler, I would absolutely take a gun and shoot Hitler. I would execute Hitler personally if I could have that opportunity, because we know what Hitler did. And if we could stop that and save millions of people's lives who were slaughtered during that war, absolutely. The reason Jay Jones feels that way is because they call President Trump Hitler. They call him a fascist. They are using that kind of language. And if you see your fellow countrymen that way, yeah, you should want to kill them. That's where we have to dial that back. These are just people with different ideas. Trump is not Hitler. We are not fascists. Democrats are not the evil side of the other equation for us. These are people that have different views and different ways of getting to where we think America should go. And if we stop the extreme labeling of each other, I think we could start talking to each other again. But right now, with Jay even calling the children little fascists, I mean, why wouldn't you want them to die if you felt like they were, future Nazi Hitler type of folks that they're calling President Trump right now? So we've got to really dial that back. All of us have to do that.
Certainly agree. All have to dial that rhetoric and the actions that we've seen after that back. Okay. Got a few moments left with you here with this great dialogue so far. Let's talk about marijuana. That's obviously going to be a big thing for the next General Assembly and governor, whether or not you will enact a retail marketplace for marijuana. I know you've been vocal about this topic as well. Could you tell our viewers and your potential constituents where you land on that topic? Would you vote for a retail marketplace to be established for marijuana in the Commonwealth?
So I'm all about finding ways to get new taxes into the Commonwealth so that we can reduce tax burdens on other people, and taxing marijuana is a good way to do that. So yeah, I'm in support of that. What I don't like about marijuana is this, is that if you live in an apartment and you have your kids in your bedroom and your neighbor's over there smoking marijuana and the marijuana is coming into your bedroom and your kids can't sleep because it smells like pot, that's something we have to get our arms around. How people use marijuana around other people has to be regulated. We can't let that happen. We've got to get the engagement rules. I mean, I saw a guy driving down here to the studio today smoking a blunt, driving his car. Like, we got to get better regulation of how you can consume marijuana, where you can consume it, what the laws are. Once we have that in place, I'm all about taxing it. I'm also all about legalizing psilocybin mushrooms for therapeutic purposes. I think doctors should be able to prescribe therapeutic psilocybin mushroom use for depression and PTSD. It's science, it's real, it makes sense. This is a mushroom that grows out of the ground that you could take that would get rid of your depression rather than having to take a pharmaceutical. Why aren't we doing that? So definitely a more conventional idea of taxing things that my side has been somewhat reluctant on, but I think they're going to come around.
And you mean just linking that with your earlier statements about the economy being top issue for you, I mean, you could argue that would be an opportunity to provide at least solid money for the Commonwealth too. I think that's what people who are supportive that they would say.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get rid of your car tax by taxing marijuana, raise your hand. I mean, I think everybody would say, yeah, I'd be fine with that fundamentally if I don't have to pay the car tax. So this is the ways we have to get taxes. Look, you can't, government has to have roads and police and fires and teachers. So we got to get it from somewhere. I'm happy to tax the marijuana to help take the burden off of your paychecks every day.
Okay, I got just one more question. This is just your opportunity, if you can, in just a few moments, to tell people who are going to be going out to vote. Early voting has already started in the Commonwealth. We got November 4th is Election Day. Why should people choose you over your opponent who's already in that seat?
Yeah, so the campaign right now against me is fight Trump, fight Trump. Everybody's unified on their side, fight Trump. There's not really been much said about me in the campaign. It's about vote for the Democrats so that you can send a message to Trump. And then I understand people's anger. And if you feel that way, you can do that at the top of the ticket. But in the General Assembly, you want me there because I'm going to be in there fighting for you, fighting against my party sometimes. We're going to be doing the right thing. You're not going to see me voting with my party 95% of the time. Anybody who does that is not representing the community. They're just there for their party. And I think everybody's sick of it. I'm a middle of the road guy, and I hope that everybody sees that from my previous record and what I do in the community as a lawyer.
Okay, that's Tim Anderson, candidate for the 97 district there in the Virginia state delegate. He's going against incumbent Michael Feggans, and we'll see what happens, man, on November 4th. We appreciate you coming in and always being willing to share and talk, and best of luck to you come November.
Take care.
Absolutely.